as many of our listeners will already know, since we broadcast last, Phyllis Schlafly passed away. She died on Monday. She was a historic figure, certainly by anybody's measure. She was, of course, a conservative, anti-feminist. She was a living paradox. She was a woman who built a career out of leading organizations and giving speeches whose goal was to ensure that other women would not be able to have careers, build organizations, or give speeches. So she was by nature a human contradiction. I don't know what kind of, first of all, I'm not big on speaking ill of the dead. They left behind families and people who loved them and so on. So I'm not going to go out of my way to trash Phyllis Schlafly. Among other things, people like that are often produced by the culture, so they're often a reflection of something as much as they are the source of something. But that said, Phyllis Schlafly was definitely a force. She definitely exerted an influence on the society that belied her own belief that women should not be influences on society. She was one. She was not one for the good, but her accomplishments were impressive. And it is worth reflecting on some of the things she said, which were helpfully collected in Salon this week, because I think in many ways she doesn't get credit, if credit is the right word, for being the forerunner of the Ann Coulters and the other people who say things to shock and outrage on the right nowadays. She was really the first one to do that. Now, Phyllis Schlafly said, among other things, and I quote, she said of her own husband, Fred never interferes with my civil liberties. Whenever we have a fight, he reminds me of my constitutional right to remain silent. Now, that may have seemed funny to conservatives in 1979 when she said it. Some of them may think it's funny today, but that is an example of the kind of retrograde thinking that Phyllis Schlafly was a champion of at a time when our understanding of gender relations was changing. She also reversed cause and effect. She said, this was her comment on the psychological dangers of feminism. As she saw it, she said, quote, "It has caused a lot of women to have low self-esteem, to convince themselves that they are repressed." Now that, of course, is nonsense. That's like saying hospitals are bad for your health because there are sick people in there. Clearly, feminism is the cure and not the disease, but she didn't understand that. She was against liberalizing divorce laws because she said a woman fat and 50 is not attractive to men. I mean, we could go on and on. She said horrible things over and over, but she always made it sound. She made the most horrible ideologies sound, at least to the people that listened to her, as if they were somehow humanitarian. I mean, here's a perfect example of what I mean. She was against federally subsidized daycare. So single mothers, working mothers, they struggle, the working families, both parents included, struggle to get by with the runaway costs of child care in this country. It is a devastating problem. Her position on that was she was against federally subsidized daycare, but here's how she put it. She didn't say, I want to cause enormous suffering for American families, although that was the outcome of the policy. What she said was, quote, "There's no real substitute for the care of a real mother." Now, in other words, she was operating a dual agenda of economic conservatism and trying to keep women at home, even though families can't survive anyway on a single wage anymore. That's one of the things that wealth inequality and conservatism has done to the country. So, if nothing else, she was the prototype for what has come to dominate the American political scene. She should be respected and understood, if not admired or loved.